You're listening to a podcast from The Word.
So, Alex Gold.
Hello.
Hello. Bruce Springsteen has announced he's touring in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And he's introduced, or the promoter, or however has been introduced, dynamic pricing. Do we know what dynamic pricing is, Alex? Because I think I do. Have you come across dynamic pricing?
No, this is not a term that I've ever heard before.
Okay. Dynamic pricing is widely adopted in various sorts of commerce, whereby the price of something goes up and down according to how many people want it and how much they're prepared to pay. And so it's a thing that you can imagine.
So it's like the stock market, but with tickets, essentially.
Well, it sort of is a bit, I suppose. But I think it's applied to loads of things. I think if you buy lots of commodities, it's dynamic pricing. I know if you buy or sell a book on Amazon frequently, that I know from my own experience, my own books have been for sale on Amazon. And the price will change. It'll go up, it'll go down. Because the algorithm is finding a price point that just kind of works. And it's not too low and it's not too high or whatever.
I suppose
so
airline tickets work on a similar basis, don't they?
Airline tickets definitely work on a similar basis. Hotel rooms work on a very similar basis. The complaint about tickets for a number of years now has been the fact that the price has gone up and up and up. The complaint on the part of the artists and promoters is that while the amount people pay for tickets may go up and up, that doesn't necessarily come back to the artist who's the person that you're paying to go and see.
Okay.
Because famously, and Bruce Springsteen was a classic case of this, famously they did a survey, I think about 15 years ago, in one American university. They identified a block of seats at a Bruce Springsteen show, and they went round and they looked at what was the face value of all those seats. So let's say it was $20,000 or whatever, for the sake of argument. And then on the night, they went to all the people sitting in those seats and said, "Do you mind telling us how much you paid?"
Right.
And of course they did. And what had they paid? Had they paid more than $20,000 or had they paid less than $20,000? What do you think, Alex?
More?
A lot more. A lot more. They'd paid at least twice as much. Wow. Probably about 4 times as much because, and that's the dilemma over the kind of the market for tickets. Because the market clearly says to you what people will pay, but very few artists traditionally have been comfortable being seen to charge the amounts of money that people will pay.
Yeah.
They might know that people might pay £500 for a ticket, but they don't wish to put out a ticket that says £500 on it because you're ripping off the people. All that
Although that's become more of a common practice in recent years, hasn't it? With Adele's Gold Circle, for example, all that kind of carry on.
Absolutely. I had a tweet this morning from Chris. Who said, "Me and Springsteen go back a long way, and having seen him in this pomp, I decided to give him a miss this time. However," he says, "my son decided he'd fancy a look at him, so he asked me to get a couple of tickets for him. I logged on at the appointed time, joined the queue. 20 minutes later, I can choose my tickets. Hurrah! The only thing left were 2 platinum standing tickets, competitively priced at round about £650 each."
Wowzers.
So that's £1,300 to see someone who sings about factories but has never been in one.
I was about to say, it's very un-blue collar, isn't it? I mean,
well, okay, but Bruce Springsteen sings about loads of things. It doesn't mean, Marlon Brando was never a boxer. There's parts people will play.
there's still a big part of us, I think, that likes to believe that Springsteen is, to a certain extent, one of us, and that's a very non-one of us thing to do, isn't it?
Which it probably explains why people traditionally in the past didn't want to be seen to be charging what the market was clearly prepared to pay. And the kerfuffle over here, I don't think is anything like as great as the kerfuffle in the United States, where floor seats, whatever, $5,000, whatever. And I really don't know what you do about this, because I wouldn't pay anything like that kind of money to see anybody.
Yeah, of course.
And therefore, I don't feel I'm contributing to that kind of spiral of ticket price inflation. But and I think this. I tell you what occurred to me thinking about this today, and I know Bruce Springsteen not playing Wembley Stadium, but whoever is playing in Wembley Stadium. How many people do you get in Wembley Stadium? 70,000 for a gig, probably something like that. 65, 70,000. And you get, Harry Styles, or I don't know who it is, Ed Sheeran or whatever, playing like 3 or 4 of these things. And you think the sheer numbers of people here are unprecedented. Years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that kind of number of people didn't want to go and see anything in those kind of numbers.
Yeah.
And it struck me, if you were standing at Wembley Stadium and you're looking at 80,000 people who had paid, let's say they paid £100 each, they probably paid more. By the time they've parked and they've had a beer and maybe bought a T-shirt or whatever, they probably paid 150 or something. And you're thinking, of those 80,000 people, what proportion would, if left to their own devices, have paid that kind of money for that kind of evening's entertainment? And I'll tell you why I put this point, because it struck me in a thing that I was writing this week. The music-going audience is made up predominantly of one social unit, and that is the couple. Most audiences are made up of couples, are they not? Okay. If you've got a couple, I think, I may be going out on a limb here, and people are free to disagree with me, as they usually do. If you have a couple going to see anybody, you've got one member of that couple who is way more enthusiastic than the other member of the couple. Is that not the case? Because one person has instigated it, and the other person is along because they quite like whoever it is, Ed Sheeran, Bruce Springsteen, whoever.
Maybe Sheeran and Springsteen, but I think those who go to see Harry Styles, it's going to be mainly groups of female friends.
I agree. Okay. And here we come back to another interesting social group, and I go back and refer to my tweet from Chris here about facing how much Bruce Springsteen tickets cost. The key sentence there, which is a sentence, I put it to you, my lud, would not have been used at any decade in the past, is, however, my son decided he'd fancy a look at him, so he asked me to get a couple of tickets for him. Now, have you ever at any stage of your life said to old Father Gold, I fancy going to see Oasis, would you mind putting your hand in your pocket, or using the family credit card? Because I don't have such a thing, because I'm 17 years old and feckless and can't be trusted for credit. That would you mind advancing the spondulics required to actually get these tickets? I don't think you have done. And if you go to your Harry Styles example, most of those tickets are bought by parents. Yes.
Yeah.
We talked to who did we talk to the other week in one of our excellent Word in Your Ear birthday conversations with one of our most valued Patreon supporters, who'd been taken his daughter, his 13-year-old daughter, to see Billie Eilish
Yes, that was
at the O2, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And it was a 13th birthday, I think, there was some occasion. And they live in Lincolnshire, I think, so it's not around the corner. And he had said he had bought the tickets, had ordered the tickets, and then when it got near the night, he looked at them and thought, I don't think these tickets are quite good enough. This is the father of 2022, conscience-stricken because he may have disappointed his daughter, 13-year-old daughter, by getting tickets that aren't quite good enough, whatever. And so he improved them, so he ended up paying probably 200 quid or whatever.
But here's another thing. Wasn't the gig about 3
He said his daughter absolutely loved it. Sorry?
Here's another thing.
The gig was really long.
And
really
isn't that
long.
kind of the norm now as well? Because obviously Springsteen plays for hours and hours and hours and hours. Anyway.
Well, it has to be. If you're charging that amount of money, you've got to play for that long, whether people actually really want it or not.
How long did the Beatles play for at Shea Stadium? Was it 25 minutes?
Certainly less than 30. It's 20. Yeah, and nobody could hear anywhere.
Wow.
But that was kind of rare. So what I'm saying is, in a very, very roundabout way, the dynamic pricing in the music business is supposed to arrive at what is the reasonable sum of money that people would pay for that product. But it doesn't work in the same way as in the music business as it would work in the world of furniture, let's say, because there is an immense kind of value in being able to get something that nobody else can get to. And that's mainly what people are paying for. They're not paying for the musical experience. They're not paying to be transported. They're paying to be able to, very much, huge part of it, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but it will apply to an awful lot of them, to be able to say you're there. And Mark and I were talking only last week about having gone to Wimbledon. And you're surrounded by people at Wimbledon. Some people are really into tennis. Some people love the occasion. Some people, and the not insignificant number of people, just love to be able to say that they're out something that you poor suckers are not out,
It's all for Instagram at the end of the day.
Well, it is, as my daughters explained to me years ago. I said, my daughters are not big festival goers at all. My son went to Glastonbury once, but never again. They're kind of homebodies. And I said to one of my daughters, I said, what is it about Glastonbury? She said, it's Instagram. It's just about Instagram. It's being able to picture yourself there and show people that you're there and that you there kind of look like Kate Moss there. Because you're wearing the same wellies and the same top and carrying the same drink with a straw and whatever. But these I don't know what you do about gig pricing. I really do not know what you do, because if you have this massive demand, a huge component of which is, I would put it to you, irrational. I don't know what you do, because people will just pay money that they don't have in a lot of cases. These prices just kind of keep on climbing and climbing. And also, you go back to somebody like Springsteen, an interesting case. Who is the best? People always talk about who's the real fans. What a shame that everybody else got to the tickets. They got there before the real fans. Who are the real fans of Bruce Springsteen that should be prioritised, if anybody's going to be prioritised in terms of access to tickets in its tour in 2023? Who do you think, Alex? Is it the old gits like me who went to see him hundreds of years ago? Or is it actually the 17-year-olds of today?
I suppose
people always talk about that. Go on.
Everybody's kind of a fair weather fan these days. I don't think there's that same level of obsession with a single artist that we had, even when I was growing up. I don't think that exists anymore because there's so much about and everything's so instantly accessible. I think everything is kind of taken to some degree for granted, and it's the real fans aren't missing out because they're not really there. Everybody's kind of going for the same reason, and that's to have to enjoy an experience and be able to put it on social media. It's not really about Springsteen at all, is it? It's not about Springsteen. Once again, it's not about the music at all. It's about everything else that's surrounding the said music.
This is the conclusion we all seem to be returning to here. It's never about the music. When people say we're all about the music, no, you're not, mate. No, you're not. You're all about the ancillary benefits, of which more after the break.
The Word Podcast. Clearly, there is no plan.
Welcome back. We're now going to take a trip into the world of contemporary entertainment through the direct experience of Mr. Alex Gold. Last week, we recorded the podcast slightly early because Alex had to go away and Mark was going away. Mark's at his chateau in France. It's a very well kept secret that Mark Allen's got a chateau with extensive grounds, vineyards, old family retainers, peasants and so forth, that he has to go and see once a year. So that's what he's doing. But anyway, Alex Gold had a professional engagement calling him, didn't you, Alex? So
yes.
Tell us the nature of the professional engagement and how it first came your way.
Well, some Italian friends of mine were getting married, and they were specifically looking for a British indie band to play indie things for indie people at an indie wedding in Italy.
In Italy.
And they asked me, naturally, and I said, I can probably help with that. I know.
So sorry, I'm going to keep coming in with
absolutely.
I'm seeking clarification in every detail here. So you were the kind of musical director, really. You were the kind of you were the convener of the job. You were the contractor. Is that right? Fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So they were specifically looking for British indie players because that's the kind of music they like. That and the Killers, so American indie bands. According to our definition.
So it's an Italian wedding.
Yeah.
But they want a British indie group. Is this like, in any way, I've been to English weddings where the musical entertainment has been provided by the, kind of Inca panpipe music, played by puzzle-looking Spanish waiters wearing blankets, things that sound a little bit like Paul Simon records. Is it being embraced as kind of world music? That's what I'm getting at.
I think we're at a point in the chronology of the universe where the Killers and the Arctic Monkeys and the Libertines are standard indie fare. I got asked to sing at another indie wedding last year, actually. They are, I think, becoming a thing. And 20 years
indie
time,
weddings.
20 years time, it'll be Stormzy and H. That's what's going to happen. But this is where we're at right now. So I said, okay, yeah, I can help you out. So, and the way these things normally work is there are covers bands aren't really bands in a traditional sense of it being a finite group of people who go around and everybody's sort of freelance in music these days. So what you do, you call a bunch of mates and say, are you free? And generally speaking, you'll just get the music on Spotify or learn it separately and get together at the gig and just go. Which is kind of bizarre, isn't it? When you think about it,
But there was more preparation with this.
We went fancy and had a rehearsal. So didn't the happy couple to be begin by giving you a set list? Is that the case? No, well, they gave us a bunch of must plays, and on that list was "The Galway Gull" by Steve Earle, "The River" by Bruce Springsteen. These are all songs that meant, something special to them. 4 songs by Naughty's indie rockers, the Cortinas, obviously.
So sorry, start again. Steve Earle, Bruce Springsteen, and 4 songs by the Cortinas.
And an Italian pop song, a sort of Euro pop cheesy number that's been everywhere there. Apparently, it's called O Matrimonio Napolitano, and they asked us to
As
learn
in
that as well.
Neapolitan wedding, that is
Yes,
basically,
exactly.
which is well named because that's where you were going. You were going to it. Well,
The truth of it is, I wasn't actually sure where we were going. All I knew was that
you were not, Alex. I hate to tell tales out of school here, listeners. But when Alex was getting ready to go on this, he said, "Yeah, I'm flying to Naples, and then we're being driven 2 hours south of Naples." And I happen to know that part of Italy quite well because I've holidayed there loads of times. I said, "I want to know where you're going." He said, "No, I refuse to find out where I'm going. It's just a mystery tour. You preferred it that way."
Well,
but anyway, you rehearsed these numbers. You rehearsed them properly. So you were kind of happy. You were happy with your rendition.
Yeah, it was all sounding good. The Italian song's a bit tricky because it was written in Neapolitan dialect, so it's kind of like
it would be,
asking an Italian singer to learn a song in
it's like Glaswegian, really.
Yeah.
It's just,
So that was a bit tricky, but we found a compromise for that in the sense of them getting their friends to come and sing it for us while we played it. So that was compromise. But yes, we had a rehearsal. We'd never met the drummer before. The drummer came through a friend of mine, so you never really know how it's going to hang together until you get together. But it sounded good. We were ready. We still didn't know where we were going because when you do lots of touring, you're spending so much time under really, really stringent schedules, and everything is so locked up and tight because it has to be. Sometimes, if you get an opportunity to give yourself the illusion of freedom, it can feel like a really liberating thing. So all we knew was that we were going to Naples on a plane and then getting picked up by someone we'd never met before and going to a place we didn't know existed yet. And that was kind of fun.
Now I'm not gonna embarrass you in front of the tax man by asking you to tell us how much you're getting paid for this. But there was a fee, wasn't there? There was a fee.
Yes.
And not enough for anybody to retire on, but not nothing either, and then they were paying for your flights. And I said to you, "Oh, that'll be a fee all over again in flights, surely, won't it?" And you said to me, "No, I don't think it will be because we're going Ryanair." Or who did you say? EasyJet? Ryanair?
It was
I can't remember.
Indeed, Ryanair.
Ryanair.
We should have known that something would happen, and it did.
Okay.
So we flew via Ryanair and landed in Naples, and we were put up in this weird hotel. We had to share a room. Two of the guys had to share.
So all four of you, have you adopted a nom de band for this jaunt, or are you just the band?
No, we were just the band, but I decided that we'd be called the 17ers halfway through the gig because
the 17ers.
It was on the 17th of July. The 17th is a really special date for the couple, and it just arrived. But yeah, at that point we.
So all the 17ers were sleeping in one, presumably very fragrant little. Little bedroom.
The bass player came first thing. He flew at 6 a.m. Because he had a gig on the Saturday. So it was me, the drummer, and the guitarist. I'm afraid I pulled rank and elected to take the single bed. So they shared a double. But,
they were top to toe. Oh, right. Oh, God.
A lovely bonding exercise.
Oh, God.
There was no breakfast available in the hotel, so we walked 2 miles uphill to the airport in a 36-degree heat in the morning.
At which point, I cannot let that go by without asking you to share with the listening audience what had been your footwear choices prior to this journey, Alex. Over to you.
As far as I knew, I would only be there for 2 days, which I was there for 2 days and some more days as things panned out. But I packed 2 pairs of vegan Doc Martens, sturdy
vegan
footwear,
Doc Martens,
all purpose. And I was going to bring a pair of sneakers, but I thought I wouldn't need a pair of sneakers, so I just had my 2 pairs of vegan Docs and. And what's basically happened is it feels like my feet have somehow gained intelligence and they are able to actively resent my existence now because they hurt that much.
So that you started on the Sunday morning with getting up at the hotel, can't get breakfast, can't get a cup of coffee or anything, but you can have a 2-mile walk, presumably along an arterial road, back to Naples Airport in order to avail yourself of the catering.
Well, it was kind of a twisty, kind of turny uphill. There were cat droppings everywhere. Feral cats, horrible. It was the most depressing walk, I think.
As a general rule of life, if you're going to walk anywhere, never walk near an airport.
No, but I tell you why.
Not built for pedestrians.
No, but we thought we could walk it. But the reason we decided to walk it was because we got a taxi from the airport to the hotel the night before, and we arrive at the hotel. The meter says $10, and the driver goes 20, and without even thinking about it, we gave him a 20 euro note. We didn't feel like Naples was the sort of place you argue with taxi drivers. So,
oh dear.
We felt it was going to be safer to walk. So we did, and we met Tom, who's a bassist who got up at 3 to fly at 6, and he arrived safely. Our driver found us to take us. He didn't know where we were going either. Now, one of the things we discovered this weekend is that the general attitude to life over there is it's wonderfully laid back.
It's different.
It is very, very different.
It's different. Can I just tell you my brief experience from Neapolitan cab drivers or drivers? I've known Neapolitan taxi drivers to stop the car and refuse to go any further until a passenger in the passenger seat, me specifically, has taken off his seatbelt, because wearing a seatbelt is impugning the masculinity of the driver.
No.
I've known that.
Wow.
Not for nothing is that part of Italy known as the Mezzogiorno. It's not like the rest of Europe at all. Anyway, over to you.
Yowzers. So we get into the people carrier, and he's called the groom to ask him where we're going. And I think he does this kind of thing quite often, because within 5 minutes he'd coerced us all into a gigantic O Sole Mio sing-along. And then he stuck on his Queen records. He's a massive Queen fan, so we were roped into a 2-hour Queen sing-along, basically.
Well, you headbanging like Wayne's World in
We
the
did.
back of the... Yeah, I bet you did. I bet you did.
It's a gorgeous drive.
Because at that point, it was Sunday morning, and life was still... The novelty was still there, wasn't it? The dew was on the grass, and life was still full of possibilities at that point, wasn't it?
Everything was great. We were having wonderful thoughts. We were having a wonderful time. And what could possibly go wrong? We discovered we were going to Amalfi, so that's where we were driven.
Amalfi.
It was
one of the
amazing.
most beautiful places on God's earth.
Yes, it was absolutely stunning. The venue was on a cliff, on an actual mountain. There was a swimming pool and the most gorgeous vista you could ever see. You know, I've never seen so many boats all kind of, pottering about together, and it was just astonishing. You've probably got a picture of Amalfi in your head, haven't you? Kind of, at its most beautiful.
You sent me a picture. You sent me a picture of the bride, I think, standing by the swimming pool, looking out over the bay, and it was picture perfect. Absolutely astonishing. Would
it be an appropriate time to mention right now also that I was wearing skinny jeans? I'm pretty sure.
Now, the heat wave that we tasted on Monday, Tuesday this week, Italy was not exempt from this at all, was it? And the same extreme conditions applied right across southern Europe, didn't they?
No, but the thing is, skinny jeans are black skinny jeans are a bit like Docs in that they go with anything, so you can't really go wrong. So I thought, well, I'll sacrifice comfort for practicality. But yeah, by this point they were pretty much welded to my legs, and I wasn't walking like a normal person anymore. But anyway, the wedding starts in the afternoon, and literally everything is at least an hour late, because that's how things work over there. But it was a really lovely do, really lavish, and the gig was fantastic. We all played well and well received, and we had a marvellous old time. And the next day,
included the 4 Cortinas songs. You did the whole.
We did. Yeah. We squeezed it all in. And Antonio, our driver, he took us back to the airport the next day. All fine, great job, lovely time. we're all pretty happy. So we get through check-in, and there's an awful lot of people in the airport. There was an awful lot of people in the airport. It almost felt like something somewhere in the vast global kind of flight network was going a little bit wrong. Lots and lots and lots of people in the airport. And
Naples, not a big airport, is it?
Not a big airport, no. And Neapolitans are not quiet people anyway, But it was getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. And all of a sudden people were chanting and thumping things and fighting and arguing with security officials. It was clear that something was pretty wrong. And what had transpired, nobody told anybody anything, right? So our flight was meant to be at 7. I think we got there at 4. At something like 8:30, we were informed that the flight had been cancelled. And the reason for this was apparently the runway at Luton Airport had physically melted.
Absolutely.
So,
it was a liquid. It was running down the M1 towards the North Circular. They absolutely liquefied in the heat. So that wasn't surprising to me at all. Anyway, go on.
But it was to me, because there's a runway in Naples and it was just as hot there, and it's fine. No, but hey, Naples is not Luton, I suppose. So we get shepherded out and we enter a queue of about, I don't know, must have been about 700 people, all waiting to get to the Ryanair desk to find out what was going to happen now.
Oh.
This desk was manned by 2 people. And you know what? They buggered off about an hour into it. They just left. They left. And we were just sort of stranded in this queue for... Well, actually... So what happened was... Ryanair... It's the airline's diligence. It's their obligation if their flight is cancelled to book accommodation.
Put you up. Yeah.
And so they did this, but it took another 4 hours for us to be taken there. We made some friends in the queue, these German girls and the Slovakian girls, and we had a bottle of limoncello. So we just drank the limoncello and made light of it all until we knew where we were going. And we got on this coach just after midnight. Which we kind of felt really bad about, because there were children that were just kept waiting and hanging on. It was really bad. But and we ended up at the hotel, and it's on the edge of town under like a.
So tell me, in high season, what kind of hotel has vacancies in the middle of the night? Tell us, Alex. You described it to me as a sex hotel.
It was for sex people. It stunk of patchouli oil. It was, all the rooms were red lit. There were no white bulbs. It was all red lighting. The girls' room had like a jacuzzi, a sex pond, in the room. In the room, the bass player and drummer's room had the toilet door was glass, so you could just see through it. Obviously, catering to a bunch of niche tastes. But,
yes, absolutely, specialists. Yeah.
But this was not a family hotel at all. So we were put up in this weird sex dungeon for the night, and it was okay. We all got a relatively good night's sleep. We survived, but still, we didn't really know what was happening next. And Ryanair had kind of abandoned everybody, and there were no flights going out of Naples the next day, or until Friday, as we were told. So we decided that our best chance of survival was to get a train to Rome and take our chances there. So the next day, we all got up and booked a train to Rome. We got to the station, got on the train, platform 13. We should have known, really. Got on the train to be told we had to get off the train because the train had been cancelled and no reason was given. So we were waiting another hour to get on another train to get to Rome. And we got there in the end. And we ended up having a really, really nice night out en masse in Rome, which is really, really lovely. And getting our flights finally the next day. Although my flight, of course, landed 2 hours late, and we were stuck on the plane for a further 45 minutes because the transport bridge at Heathrow is broken. There were no ground staff available to connect us. So, just to summarise, you left the UK last Saturday. Yep.
To play for what, 90 minutes at a party or something, at a wedding the following day.
Oh, actually, one thing I forgot about the sex hotel was there was no breakfast. There was zero breakfast. We had a tiny croissant. And
Alex, people in sex hotels don't want breakfast. They're not hanging around for breakfast. Are they? So anyway, you flew out on Saturday.
Yeah.
You played the gig on Sunday, 90 minutes or whatever. You actually got back to what you fondly called the Shire in the Midlands. Mm. You got back at 11 o'clock last night.
11 o'clock
right?
last night, yeah.
It's right now Thursday. So it's fair to say that this little jaunt took a lot more out of you than you might have predicted.
Oh, yeah.
At the outset. Did you? The question I want to ask you is, did you at any stage think to yourself, this musician lark is a bit of a mug's game?
Well, actually, you know what? No, because we met some really cool people, and we spent the whole few days. We made travel buddies, and so it kind of felt like we were all on a school trip. It felt really exciting.
See, that, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I put it to you, is why the music business economy is the way it is. Because guys in bands will do anything for a gig, won't they? Because they love the crack. They love the going away. They love the being off the leash. They love the hanging around in airports even, all that sort of stuff. They love that almost as much as playing the music. What they love is the idea that only in a rock and roll band can you be effectively 15 years old for the rest of your life. Is that true or is that not, Alex?
It's precisely it. It's not really about the music at all, is it, Dave?
This podcast was brought to you by The Word.